All right, this is section 9-2, part A. We're going to learn to read t-tables. All right, so find the t-value such that the area to the right tail is 0.02 with 19 degrees of freedom. So they're telling me the degrees of freedom equals 19, and that automatically means that n was equal to 20. There's a formula that you should know is degrees of freedom is equal to n minus 1 for t-tests or t-intervals. All right, so I'm going to draw my picture here, and it looks something like this. And I got over here 0.02 area, so this area. So they want to know this t-score right here, and z is always, or 0 is always the middle of a t-score. So to find that, I'm going to go to the table, and this is a t-table. It's in your formula set section, and a t-chart's different than a z-chart. Let me show you the difference here. Here's a z-chart, and remember that the area was always to the left, so you got used to looking up and thinking about these numbers in here in the array were the areas to the left of whatever z-score was listed out here. Okay, in this one here though, in the t-table, it's kind of a little different. This time, these are the areas across the top up here. So instead of the areas being inside the array, these are the areas across the top. And then this is the degrees of freedom down the side. And the numbers inside the array are actually the t-scores this time. So the t-scores are in here. These are all t-scores and not area anymore. The areas are listed across the top, and the degrees of freedom are listed down the side. So let me go back and look at this guy here. I have 19 degrees of freedom and 0.02. So I go to the chart, and let me bring it up here a little bit. All right, so I got 0.02, which is right here, and 19 degrees of freedom, which is this row here. And I find that number right there aligns up with 0.02 area and 19 degrees of freedom. So my t-score for that particular spot is 2205. So the t of 0.02 is equal to 2205 with the decimal point right there, so it's 2.205. Okay, and that's how you find this t-score. So that's this means that this is 2.205 standard deviations above 0, or the mean, comma the mean. And remember, a 0 is always the middle of a t-score, and this would be equivalent to x bar in terms of numbers. All right, let's go try another one here. I know, find the t-value such that the area in the right tail is 0.1, and the degrees of freedom, so degrees of freedom is equal to 32, and so that means that n was 33. And I want to draw this picture here, and I've got this guy going like this, and this time I have this is 0.10, and I know that 0 is the middle, and I want this z-score, or this t-score right here. I want that t-score right there. So t of 0.10 is going to be equal to, so I got to go back to my table, and I want to find 32 degrees of freedom, and that's going to be down a ways. And then this column right here, 0.10, so that's the column I want. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 columns over. And I want a 32 degrees of freedom. So 32 degrees of freedom is right here. And I want to go 4 rows over, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be 1309. So my t-score would be 1309. Let me go back up and check and make sure I'm in the right column. Yeah, okay, 1309. So I go back here, and this is equal to 1309. So that's a decimal point, which means that this distance from here to there is 1.309 standard deviations. And that's that idea that this is this 1.09 means how many standard deviations you are above the mean, which would be equivalent to x bar here. X bar will be some number. I don't know what it is yet, but we're going to learn that next unit. So go down to the next one here. All right, so we want to find a t-value such that the area to the left of the t-value is 0.05. All right, so we're going to draw, well, degrees of freedom. Let's go back over here. Degrees of freedom is equal to 6, which means that n was equal to 7. It's important to understand that because we're going to need this n number in another part of the problem coming up, because that's a different thing though. So I have this curve, and this guy over here is 0.05, and remember that 0 is in the middle, and I want to find this z-score here, that one for that one, or the t-score, excuse me, t-score. So to do that, they don't have negative t-scores in the chart like they did in the z one, so I'm going to just use the symmetry. I'm going to find 0.05 over here, and then take the negative of it. So I'm going to go to the table, and I'm going to look 0.05, so I'm going to go up here, go up a little bit. So 0.05 is right here, and 6 degrees of freedom is right here, so 1943. So 0.05, 6 degrees of freedom, so that's 1.943. So I go back to my picture here. So the t is equal to, and I don't put the area there anymore because it's be kind of weird. It's going to be negative 1943, so 0.1943. So this is negative 1.943, and what that means is this value that gives you an area of 0.05 is 1.943 standard deviations below the mean. And remember, x bar is associated with the next bar will be some number. We don't know what it is yet. All right, so we have one more problem to do, and then you can go work on homework for a while. I'd find the critical t-value that corresponds to a 95% confidence interval. Assume 16 degrees of freedom. So agree again, degrees of freedom is equal to 16, which tells me that n is equal to 17, and my confidence level is equal to 0.95, which means that alpha is equal to 0.05, because remember that the confidence level plus alpha always equals to 1. So I'm going to draw my picture, and when they say they want a confidence interval, that means that they want it so that I have 95% of the area is in the middle here. So this is 0.95, which would mean that the 0.05 gets split between these two ends, which would mean I get 0.025 here and 0.025 here. And some people may be curious as to how I came up with that. If I take 0.05 and divide it by 2, I get the 0.025. So that's how you split the 0.05 alpha between the two tails. So now I want to find, remember, okay, by the way, remember that 0 is always the middle of this guy. So I want to find this t-score and this t-score. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up this one, find it, and then take the negative of it. So the way we represent that is t alpha over 2. And somewhere in your problem statement, you must have listed alpha over 2. So alpha over 2 means what it means. It means half of whatever alpha is for the problem. So I'm going to go to the table, find this guy. Now I want 0.025, so that's this one here. And I forgot how many degrees of freedom already. 16. All right, so go back over here. So 16 degrees of freedom is right here. And so I'm going to get it right there. So 0.025 with 16 degrees of freedom is 2120. So I go back over here, and I know this is 2120. Well, it's really 2.10. Okay, and then this one over here is negative 2.120. And so my T alpha over 2 is 2.120. Let me go back and check and make sure I read that correctly. Yeah, okay. So we're here. And so that's how you find everything that we're doing. So I'm cutting these shorting and making them shorter videos. I think it'd be a good idea for you to watch this and then go maybe do problem number 7 in the book and practice, because 7 has the answers in the back, and then you can make sure you have this skill for the next video. All right, good luck.